All right, we have one last thing, and I want to tell you all something very important. I told you so. A couple weeks ago, I told you that we were not done with Shai-hulud. I, in fact, said they had stolen hundreds of thousands of credentials. I said this was just the start, and with those credentials, they could do other things. And I knew that there was going to be people that didn't rotate the credentials. I also said this was just the start of this type of attack, and we're going to see more. Now, some call me a prophet, some just call me really good at understanding what people are going to do. And I'm not even either of those things. I just knew that this was going to be a thing from now on. So, guess what? Get this out of my face. Okay. Shai-hulud 2.0 supply chain attack, 25,000 plus repos exposing secrets. This is not Shai-hulud, this is Sha1-hulud. It's SHA1. I call it Sha1-hulud just because that it makes it easier than saying Shai-hulud 2.1. Anyways, so a lot of people call it this is what most people call it, Sha1-hulud, the second coming. Now, I have really liked Step Security's blogs on this. I've been really liking them on this. Wiz's blog post on this is also really good, so I'm going to post both. I'm going to give you guys both. You can pick which one you want to read. Wiz's is a little bit more in depth. Step Security is more of a bigger overview. So, pick which one you'd like. I have a couple things I want to point out to you all that I think is important and pressing right now. This goes back to what I said at the very start of the stream, where at this point, there are a lot of things happening with NPM. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to pick on NPM today because it's easy and fun. And NPM suffers more from these things because of design considerations than some of the others. But any package manager could suffer from this. Even my favorite ones like crates.io could suffer from these type of attacks. And so I've set out some guidelines that I like teams to run by that help protect from these type of attacks. And those are the things that I want to discuss today and talk about it. First of these is that AIs are not allowed to add dependencies to projects. Full stop. An AI should not be allowed to add a dependency in your project. Because, as we saw here, these packages that people are making ones that AIs would pick. Let's say you wanted to get the JSON out of a JWT from OAuth. Well, there's JSON OAuth. Maybe it does that. Maybe it gives you a beaver tail otter cookie. Nobody wants a beaver tail otter cookie, but you might get one. Let's say you want a session keeper. All of these sound like something you might want to do. Tailwind magic. If you go look it up, it has like some magical things that it supposedly does with Tailwind, but it actually just gives you a beaver tail otter cookie. My point is we need to create some basic guidelines on how we leverage these things. And worst of all, this has two places it can get you. In your supply chain, whatever CI/CD that you're doing, where you build these projects, it can attack your CI/CD system. The other place it can get you is on your local machine, on your local dev boxes. So these are the two different places that you can be taken by this type of attack. So the first thing is no AIs allowed to add dependencies to your project. That's step one. The second thing is, and this is one that I talked about last time, is no new packages. Every package has to be at least 2 days old. I think that actually a week is better. 5 business days is what I like. It makes me way more comfortable. And then you can make exceptions if and when you need it, when there is a feature or whatnot. You can even make exceptions for internal packages. So let's say you have a package that you publish, and you want to always use the latest and greatest of that one because maybe it gets lockstep. You're adding a new feature to it so that your project can have that new feature. Fine. I don't care about that. But external dependencies should be at least a minimum of 2 days. I think 5 days. Generally, you don't need that much unless if there's again, an exception because there's a horrible security vulnerability that you want to patch or something like that. Those are the first 2 steps I think everybody needs to do today for their supply chain management. I think that makes things like this less of an issue. That being said, we're in Shai-hulud. Right now, it's going on again. Again, 25,000 repos are exposing secrets. That was at the time of writing this. There's more now. I almost guarantee it. Now, I've been watching, and I don't think the attack is ongoing. I think that most of the packages have been found. I always say that there should be a 2-day grace period. When NPM says they haven't seen any more, you give it 2 more days. They've been really good at catching and identifying what they look like and then isolating them. I still think that you should give it 2 more days. The last one that I saw that was taken was 2 days ago. So I think that we're in the clear. I would say Monday we are in the clear. But there's still some things that you need to do. If you haven't done it, what actions should security teams take? Now, I don't know why Wiz and why Step Security refuse to give me header links. Both of you guys give me flipping header links. Anyways, both of these have a what should you do and indicators of compromise. Now, Wiz doesn't actually give indicators of compromise, which I think they should have, but you can do what should you do. This is another thing that if you're dealing with NPM, we have our first 2 things. The next thing is you need to pin all dependencies to known clean versions. Basically, there's no more willy-nilly updating node dependencies. And I know that you could have 1,000 of these things, and you've got to be careful updating them. You can rotate all your credentials. This is kind of a shotgun effect if you haven't been taken. If you have been taken, remember, when you rotate your credentials, you have to do it on a unaffected machine. If you do it on the machine that was taken, well, you've just given them your new credentials too. Make sure that you have good auditing in your things, blah, 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 and harden your pipelines. There's a lot of ways to do that, a lot of products to do that. I wanted to go to indicators of compromise because this one, Sha1-hulud, instead of shai-hulud, Sha1-hulud does some more nefarious things. It's basically a leveled up, an upgraded version. First, you can't just look for the shai-hulud repository. It actually creates a repository, but the repository that it creates is actually one that has a UUID instead of the name Sha1-hulud. Now, Sha1-hulud is in the description. So if you're search for a new repository. It will have a UUID, and it will have shai-hulud in the description. Some of the other things that it does that's pretty nefarious is it actually creates a GitHub action runner on your local machine. So it makes your local machine a GitHub action runner, configures it, and it uses a vulnerability in that to actually exfil data from your laptop, more data from your laptop, leveraging that attack. It injects a GitHub action workflow exploiting a comment injection vulnerability in the discussion event. The malware obtains a GitHub action runner registration token and installs a self-hosted runner named shai-hulud on the compromised machine. The repository is created by the exploit discussion enabled so anyone can create a discussion thread. The deobfuscate, it goes into it. The next thing that it does, which is more insidious, if you're on a Linux machine, is it actually then tries to nuke it to erase. Now, this isn't an insidious erase. It's not, as far as I've read a couple places that are written up on it. It is not trying to nuke your hard drive to be a jerk. It's trying to hide what it's doing. So basically, it just tries to erase the traces of what it did on your machine and overwrites writable home files. So those are some of the leveled upness of it. It's a little bit more nefarious. You gotta be careful. You can look for a couple of things. The first thing is it installs bun to do this. The first thing that it does is install bun to then run bun to do all of its dirty work. So you can look for the execution of this, the curl command to install bun, because that is what it does. So if something does that, it doesn't mean you've been compromised, because there are things that do this, but that's a good indicator. A new .bun bin bun binary created at the same timestamp as the malicious package. This is the unexpected repository and files created on the victim's GitHub account. This is what I would look for. This is the easy thing. And then if you can look for this API calls to contents with put for the workstations or CI jobs. This is just putting in this is just them creating the workflow. So these last two seem like the easiest ways to see if your computer is infected. And I think you need to go do that. This is a worm, and it has, I believe they said, billions of lines of obfuscated, or millions of lines of obfuscated code that looks like this. 10 megabytes long. A 10 megabyte text file is absolutely massive. It has a massive hex code encoded string array. It has anti-alias loops at the very top that performs millions of operations. Every string in the code is retrieved via an obfuscated function like this. So people have been going through this and trying to deobfuscate it, but there's still a lot that they don't know what it does. Yeah, what do you all think? Now, I'm going to make a prediction. This is not the last Shai-hulud. Remember that they stole 25,000 repos, are exposing users' data. So that's 25,000 keys that they stole from people. Well, more than that. That's 25,000 people that had their credentials stolen to everything that they could find on their computer. So now the attacks from this will begin.